All right, welcome. We're going to call this meeting to order. I'll invite my colleagues to make sure your microphones are back on. Thank you for joining us. This is the Bath Charter Township Board of Trustees regular meeting for April 1st. We're coming off a special meeting the last 2 hours with some great conversation about Norm Fasteners. Happy Easter Monday if you celebrate. We're going to start with a call of order.
Mr. Funes Bliss?
Here.
Ms. Butler Challenger here. Ms. Wilson?
Here.
Ms. Hagerman?
Here.
Ms. Kellerman?
Here.
Mr. Phillips?
Here.
Mr. Rosecrans?
Here.
Thank you.
We're all here, great. Next up is civic reflection. We're going to start with the Pledge of Allegiance, followed by a moment of silence, so please stand if you're able. Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. And now a moment of silence. Thank you. All right, a reminder that we waived our board rules for the last meeting, but the board rules are back in place for this meeting. That leads us to the approval of the agenda. Are there any proposed changes, alterations, concerns about the agenda tonight? All right, if you're happy with that, my colleagues, would someone make a motion to approve?
I'll make a motion to approve the agenda.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Is there any discussion? Hearing none, we'll take a voice vote. All those in favor of approval of the agenda tonight, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? The agenda stands approved. Next up is the disclosures of conflict of interest. Do any board members have a conflict of interest with tonight's agenda items that they want to declare now?
The Museum Committee is presenting, of which I'm a member. I don't believe we're taking action tonight, but I just wanted to make that clarification.
Thank you. All right, let's move on to public statements. Item 5 on the agenda is public statements 1. This is reserved for items regarding our agenda tonight. Each member can step to the lectern for up to 3 minutes to state your questions, concerns, comments about the agenda item. There's a second moment at the end of the agenda in which, guests will be invited to talk about any topic that you would like to share with us for an additional 3 minutes. So if you have something topical to the agenda tonight, please step up to the lectern and share.
Cindy Cronk, Webster Road. I want to comment on committee appointments. I see we have Allison Brooks, who is a resident at Countryside Manor, and I'm the executive director there. I see that she's on the agenda to be appointed as a commissioner, and I fully support her. She is a resident there. She's been with us for a short while, but she works well with the folks in the community over there. And also with committee appointments, I wanted to follow up with Ryan, and I wanted to thank the folks who showed up at the Housing Commission's special meeting and our regular meeting that we couldn't hold because we didn't have a quorum. I wanted to follow up, and Ryan, I want to get together and talk to you about committee appointments. I did get a chance to talk to Doug.
Good, I did too.
And he said that you did too. And I think that there was a misunderstanding, is what he told me. So I'd like to get together and get that resolved about our committee appointments. And along with that, I would highly recommend that you reappoint Dennis Lardy, who is our treasurer. He's a vital part of our group. He was not part of the commissioning team when the place went haywire. He's only been part of the team to revive it and to save it. Thank you.
Thank you. Other members of the public? All right. We'll close public statement and move to items from county, state, federal, and other agencies. I see we have one of our county commissioners here. Welcome, Commissioner.
Good evening, trustees. Dwight Washington, Park Lake Road, and I'll make it brief today and give a few updates And light of the public process that you had, we recently had one of those on the Clinton County level, and while it was a very messy and complicated, I think that we walked away with a good result. And that was, we looked at the solar ordinance, and I know that Bath Township is beginning to look over that as well, and would encourage you to look at what the county's done, because the county's does not actually apply to Bath Township, but it will be used by other agents, other municipalities, I think, because we really tried to preserve farmland as well as make sure that we were preventing solar sprawl from happening, but making sure that there was a place for solar to occur. And that really did take up a good deal of time last month. But also, there's, the county has to undergo a solid waste plan because of state regulations. And we look to partner with other counties to see if there was an interest. But right now, each of the other counties want to do it by themselves. So it's going to be an opportunity for us to figure out how can we manage and collect as many recyclable materials as necessary to make it so that solar or renewable energies isn't something, or renewable products aren't something that we're losing money on, but at least breaking even or coming out ahead. And that may be a little bit more challenging with the reduced flow of recycling goods. Another thing is that we've recognizing the services that veterans have provided to our counties. We are seeking a grant for a special victims treatment court so that people can get the services they need instead of the punitive measures, which really don't have a holistic healing effect. Considering the healing of our community, another event that's actually taking place is that Clinton County is now beginning to think about and make plans for what to do with the opioid monies. There's been an opioid task force that's been developed, and that's going to have representatives from a number of different agencies within the county, and hopefully we're going to be able to come up with something so that we can get those opioid funds distributed in a way that helps relieve some of the losses and the tragedies and pains that have gone along with the opioid epidemic. I'd also like to say in closing that there are a number of opportunities for people to contribute to the county's well-being. One of those is a Tri-County Office on Aging's annual golf event, which is coming up. So golfers, please be mindful of this if you want to golf and support our aging community. There's the Capillary Community Services is going to have a 5K, and they really work to prevent poverty and low-income families from any further uncomfort and uneasement. And lastly, the Clinton County Conservation District is having their tree sale, and that will be April 19th and April 20th, so people who are interested in buying trees to help the county and also to help the environment, that event is taking place. Thank you, that's my report.
Thank you, Commissioner. Are there questions for the
Where's
Commissioner?
the tree? Say, where is the tree planting?
If you go on, it's gonna be at the county farm grounds in St. John's. And if you go online to the Clinton Conservation District, you'll see a website that will give you the address.
Thank you.
Jack?
But I'd just like to make a comment in regards to the opioid concerns that the county's undertaking. Certainly, there's a lot of money coming out of the state. I would just encourage you to encourage your fellow commissioners up there to look at 6 project out of Grand Rapids. I think they're doing some good things. One of the things that I think is important about this is they have a method by which some of these street drugs can actually be tested so we don't end up with as many deaths as we're having because of fentanyl and tranq. So I would just encourage you to look into that.
I will pass it along. I'm actually hoping to be on that committee, and I'll take those words to them.
Thank you.
Thanks, Jack. Other questions or comments for the Commissioner? Sounds like no. Thanks for coming.
In closing, if I may, I'd just say that the county did look favorably upon the Bath School Memorial Project, and I did see a draft letter that's going out in support, so the county is behind that.
That's great to hear.
Thank you. Good evening, everyone.
Thank you. All right, there's no one else we're expecting, right, Karen? No. Okay. That brings us to the consent agenda. We have 2 sets of minutes for the consent agenda from Park Lake Advisory Board and Planning Commission. How would you all like to take those in?
If we could do them both, Mr. Supervisor, I have moved to accept those minutes of both those meetings, Planning Commission, Park Lake Advisory Board meeting, place on file, please.
There's a motion?
Second.
And a second. Because this is the consent agenda, there's no discussion. All those in favor of approving the consent agenda tonight, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposition? All right. That brings us to item 8 on the agenda, approval of minutes. We have one set of minutes from the Board of Trustees meeting on March 18th. How would you like to handle those?
Make a motion to approve the minutes as submitted.
We have a motion. Is there a second?
I'll second.
We have a motion and a second to approve the minutes of the Board of Trustees meeting from March 18th, 2024. Is there any discussion or questions on that? Hearing none, we'll take a voice vote. All those in favor of approval of the minutes, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries. That brings us to the approval of the vouchers. Is there a motion to approve the vouchers that are presented tonight?
I'll make a motion to approve the vouchers as submitted.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Is there questions or discussion about the vouchers? All right, hearing none, we'll do a roll call vote.
Ms. Wilson?
Yes.
Mr. Phillips?
Yes?
Ms. Kellerman?
Yes.
Ms. Hagerman?
Yes.
Mr. Rosecrans?
Yes.
Ms. Butler Challenger, yes. Mr. Funes Bliss?
Yes.
Thank you.
Motion carries. Treasurer's report, there is not one tonight. We do have one committee appointment, Allison Brooks. You're Allison, correct? Last time I saw you had a mask on, so I just wanted to check. Do you want to address the board at all? You don't have to, but you're welcome to. Please.
So stated, I am Allison Brooks, and I just would like to say thank you for this appointment, and I look forward to working with the Housing Commission and making positive changes with low-income housing.
Thanks,
Thank you.
Allison. So I'm presenting to you the application for Allison Brooks to be appointed to the Housing Commission with a term ending December 31st, 2026. This is filling the vacancy of Joshua Gunn. It's also fulfilling the requirement that we have a resident sitting on the commission. So I'm excited about Allison's candidacy for multiple reasons. And you heard the executive director speak earlier, is in support of this appointment as well. Is there questions or comments or a motion to be made?
I'll make a motion to appoint Allison Brooks to the Housing Commission, replacing Joshua Gunn with the term expiring December 31st, 2026.
Second it.
We have a motion and a second. Any other discussion? All right, let's do a voice vote on this. All those in favor of the appointment of Allison Brooks to the Housing Commission, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries. Welcome, Allison. I'm sure you'll do great work. That brings us to item 12 on the agenda, Township Committee reports. First up is Safe Routes to School, and we have Elise Erickson here to talk about that update. Welcome, Elise.
Okay, so you're gonna have to bear with me, my voice left me, so we're gonna make this work. This is just gonna be an update for what's been going on. We have officially entered into another grant. We are on the 2024 grant. It is going to go until the end of September-ish of this year. And then once that is done, we will move into the other grant. So this means that with this grant, we are covering all 3 schools now. We have now entered into having the high school as well involved in the Safe Routes to School. The high school group is going to be, we have a small group of teenagers, and they are willing to help out at different events, like the bike rodeo and the bike and roll and all sorts of different things. So that's how they're gonna be helping. It's gonna go towards their community hours that they need to for the high school. Okay, so we're doing, because technically there was the talk of the major grant for the 2024, like this year grant, that is gonna get moved to next year. So the major grant is still going to happen because that is going to be the sidewalks that is going to be covered. The major grant, non-infrastructure, which is the Safe Routes to School part, is gonna be the next school year. So Safe Routes to School is gonna be around for the 24-25 school year-ish, if I did my math right. So we will still be updating the story walk. That is gonna be changed hopefully this weekend for a new story. And that's just gonna be consistent. And then I ordered a bike blender. It is officially in. It's going to go attached to a regular bike for the younger elementary school kids with the intention of this being a free way for them to make their own smoothies. We're working on trying to get fruits and veggies. They can do their work and then they can get the fruits literally of their labor in this. And that's gonna be for different programs that we're gonna be out and about for. So, with that being said, if you can hand that is the Bike and Roll flyer event. This is gonna be given out to all the kids and out to the community. We also have, if there's anyone on the board that wants to volunteer, I have a flyer for that on what we're looking for. And we'll also need vendors, so any small businesses that supports the elementary, middle, and high school. This is a great free promo. Bring your stuff out. I'll set up a table for you. Promote your goodies for the Bike and Roll event. Next up is going to be the bike rodeo. It is gonna be similar to last summer's with some minor adjustments. The location's gonna move, we're gonna have more space. I'm taking into account the comments and suggestions from last bike rodeo, trying to put them into effect for this bike rodeo. Same thing, we're gonna need volunteers for that, so if you're interested, let me know. And then also, again, if there's any vendors for businesses or whatever, free promo, let me know, we can get you set up and everything for that. We will also be at the science fair at the elementary school, and then we've also been asked to go to join the back to school event with the church in town. So otherwise, we are active and moving, and those are our events. Any questions or anything? Yes.
Elise, is the police department participating in the bike rodeo?
I
I know they have
asked-
in the past, but I don't know if they're still
Yes,
doing
I
that.
have asked, actually, for the bike and roll event, I have sent out an invite to the fire and the police. And I'll do, the fire and the police are already doing, they are a part of the June 8th event. Because the bike rodeo is gonna happen at the elementary and middle school, and the same day the Bath Charter Township Library is doing their summer kickoff reading. And so the departments are gonna be over there, because they beat me to the punch on that one, honestly. But we are joining because it's gonna, the intention is hopefully it's a whole town event, because we're gonna have stuff at the library, we're gonna have stuff at the elementary and middle school. So we're gonna have crossing guards going. I'm hoping my one crossing guard will be attendance. I'm gonna ask the police department to help out just for the Four Corners flow of getting people out and about. Anyone else?
Other questions? I like the bike blender idea. When you come up with a way to not do any pedaling and get like pizza, I'm your guy. Otherwise, I'll bring my kids out to that.
Bring the kids out.
Thank you both, and thanks for your hard work for the community. Next up on Township Committee reports, the Bath School Museum, Community Project Funding. We have Bath School Museum Committee members, Chris Hagerman and Nicole Gabrielle.
Good evening.
Welcome.
So on behalf of the Bath School Museum Committee, we'd like to thank the Township Board of Trustees for supporting our building project. With the funds that you allocated toward the project, we were able to complete the first step of the process, which is the completion of a master design plan by THA architects and engineers. So Chris is handing that out to you guys now. The master plan starts off with a bit of history of Bath Schools and the museum, most of which we shared in our previous presentation here. And I'm sure you're aware of most of that already. But starting on page 4, you'll see a site plan that shows the approximate location of the future museum building in James Couzens Park. We are working with the Bath School Board on their plans to tear down the current maintenance building and open up more space for the museum. If you move on to page 7, you will see the design for the interior layout. The design places the cupola in the main entryway, so it will still be visible to the public while protected from the elements. There will be gallery spaces for the school disaster, alumni history, and rotating exhibits. And we will also be able to combine the gallery areas to accommodate 200 people for event space. Page 8 and 9, backwards here. Page 8 and 9 show the exterior views from Main Street and Webster Road. And page 10 gives a cost estimate for the project at approximately $4.2 million. The committee has set a fundraising goal of $5 million to get the building opened, furnished, and allowing for startup operating expenses. So far, our fundraising committee has had meetings with Senator Sam Singh, Senator Sarah Anthony, staff from Representative Alyssa Slotkin's office, and has presented, as I think Dwight mentioned earlier, to the Clinton County Board of Commissioners, and received a letter of support from them. I believe we did already receive that. From Clinton County, yes. So all these folks have offered strong support for our project and a willingness to help us seek funds wherever we can. The committee would like to ask for the township support in our fundraising campaign. We would like to request a letter of support that can be used for local, state, and federal grants. And we would also like to request that the township apply on the museum's behalf for any grants that are open only to municipalities. We definitely appreciate your consideration and partnership and look forward to continuing to work together with you on the museum build. Are there any questions? I know it's a lot of info.
It was really good information. I got to see the plan earlier, last week, and I just think it's really impressive. It seems like an exciting project. Kieran, can we put on a future agenda some action for those two requests? Maybe we can draft up a letter to review with the committee members? Yes. Folks have questions about the project or questions about the two requests of us tonight? All right.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.
And, hey, Chris Eggman. And I'll just add that for folks watching online, we do have a website. It has a flip book in there that you can look through a little bit better than what these are. I had one gentleman reach out to me on Facebook saying he had a hard time reading those, so we'll try to put some bigger pictures on our website or on Facebook. If anyone has any questions, we do have an email, bathschoolmuseum.org, or you can reach us on Facebook. A million ways to reach us. So we just appreciate township support, local representatives support, Clinton County support, and everyone who's willing to help us make this happen. So thank you.
Thanks, Chris. I had a chance to join some of the committee members at the meeting with Senator Anthony last week, and I thought it went very well. She didn't say no, so that's always good. But it was nice to hear. I learned a lot from the presentation. It was nice to see how elected officials are hearing this and the support they have for the project. So kudos.
Just one more thing. We reached out to Senator Singh earlier today requesting a letter of support as well, and they're gonna get one for us as well. So we're gonna do the same with Senator Anthony, and we're also working on Penelope
Rep Cernoglu, yeah.
There you go. I knew I was close. And we're gonna work with her to get a meeting and a letter of support from her as well.
Thank you all. That brings us to item 13 of our agenda, unfinished business. The first item is items for introduction and discussion, a development update from our planner, who's working overtime tonight.
Okay. All right. Very exciting times being here, though, and this is what it's all about. So happy to do it. Cool. Let me see if I can get this to pull up on the screen real quick here. All right, great. All right, I don't have a mouse on me, so it's gonna make it a little bit hard to move around, but I like to get the map just to get the visual out. I'll say first, before we talk about, development, community development, it's not all about what's new, I just want a little shout out. I'm sure Karen's office will put out more information as we come up, but I know, Tom King Junk Day is coming up. Development's also about, maintaining the housing stock and the facilities you have, so it's a great opportunity to, get rid of some of that clutter and spring cleaning and help maintain the stuff we have, and that's a big part of development and the growth of a community, so I just wanted to give that a little shout out. Second, I just thinking about our last meeting and everything that's pointed out tonight, I feel like I have to say, development brings change. Change is a natural part of any community's path and time. Change doesn't just have to be new developments coming into a community. I got my start in planning working in the city of Flint. They have, at the time, very few new developments coming into the community, and they were experiencing tremendous amounts of change. I think that what we're experiencing in Bath Township is the consequences and the challenges of growth. And I think those are challenging, and I think there are things to work through, but I think those are good problems to have. I think it is much harder to have the problems of a shrinking community or a demising community, whatever word you want to use. Just real quick anecdote, when I worked there, we were doing mapping for whole blocks to cut off from city services because we could no longer fund them. And so those are the types of choices we had to make. Okay, so with that depressing news out of the way, let's talk about what's going on in Bath. So right now, we have had the kind of beginning of spring, a real uptake in commercial development activity. So one of our largest home builders in the township is currently approached the planning commission for a review of a plan unit development project there. The name of the company is HDI Builders. They have done a lot of the homes back here in the Meadows, or Meadowbrook, sorry. They are looking to develop this currently vacant parcel, which sits at, I wanna say like, yeah, about 12 acres. Right now, these lots are saying about 20,000, 30,000 square feet roughly. The homes are tightly built, kinda in the typical maximalist PUD setup. This is within the township service area, so they're, serviced by water, sewer, fiber, kind of all of our big, infrastructure. So for me, the challenge with Bath in the planning context is we're threading a needle. We have this growth in the south, and we have this rural area in the north that wants to maintain its identity. And how does that needle get threaded? It's by controlling the growth in a sustainable way. I think this is a good representation of how we try to accomplish that. There's gonna be growth in Bath. We're in a desirable area, in a desirable school district. This school district in particular is Hazlitt School District. It's ranked top in the state. We need this development to happen where it maximizes our inputs from our infrastructure, and that would be achieved here. We're looking at about 50-ish units. That's still in play a little bit, but 50-ish units of single-family housing. We'll just move around Saginaw. As you guys know, there has been quite a change from the Taco Bell to the Ace Hardware to the surgical center, outpatient surgical center on the north, to the Big B Coffee. That's kind of came in the last couple of years. It was mentioned tonight the projects that the Maxian had worked on this satellite imagery. It's not up to date yet, but there's a 4-unit shopping center here, and there is a storage facility here. We've also had a about 2 years ago, this storage facility also expanded. Okay, moving on to some of the other projects that have come through. Let me zoom back out here. If I can without ruining this. No, I cannot. Really need a mouse. Karen, see now I'm doing the thing. Okay. All right. We still are on hold with this project here, which is the outer part of Hawks Ridge. We'll see what happens there. Obviously, we had the conversation. I'm just going to try to put this at like a medium and just move around. We'll see what happens with Norm Fastener. moving up here. There have been some talks about something locating in this parcel here. No formal application has been submitted, so I caution everyone about what's going on there. For me personally, with developments, as I kind of stated with Meridian Township and the Trader Joe's tonight, nothing's official till it's official. This talk about, oh, I think I heard this, I heard that, if we planned a community around that, like, it would be a mess. Now what has been submitted is a application for a kind of, I would call them almost site condominiums. The phrase that they're going with is townhomes. I don't think they meet the state building department's or state building code definition of townhomes. I think they'd be closer in the category of condominiums. To go here on this larger I parcel, this undeveloped area of Somerset. I think that could be viewed a couple of different ways. If we are to have a larger manufacturer come here and likely, you know, those employees would be seeking housing, this could be a good option. We don't have a lot of housing in this category in the township, so it helps us in the planning department at least meet one of our goals of our current comprehensive plan, which is creating a diversity of housing stock. This means like a lot of different types of housing in the township for different types of folks. So that could be advantageous, I guess. Obviously that comes with a lot of concerns. I think they want to do these as rentals, so we've been talking a lot about what are your assets gonna be, down to like, where are people gonna take their dogs to go to the bathroom so the grass doesn't die, because that's a problem we have in Okolofs. So, I guess we're working on it, we'll see what happens. It's coming from the I company. They're kind of famous for throwing stuff out there, it going through a process for a while, dying for 6 months, coming back for a while. So I don't know how quickly that would make its way to the board, I couldn't call it. This is permitted by special use permit though, so it would have to come to the board, so just a heads up on that one. And then currently probably our farthest development along right now is actually a pretty interesting one. You don't see a lot of these. I'm gonna try and navigate my way over there slowly. Is a private school on this parcel right here. They're looking to take on initial class size or initial student body size of about 30 students. I think they're capping themselves at about 80. I think they'd likely be capped before that by the size of their facility. They're also planning kind of phased in approach. This land use is a by right land use in the zoning district, so this body would not see that land use come. They're currently under agency review. For example, I met with those folks in the police department today to go over safety plan, how safety would work, how first responding would work, how do they plan to address, you know, the numerous issues that come with being responsible for children.
And it's like an environmental school?
Yeah, so they kind of do, so my understanding is, and this doesn't really affect the planning review process, but just to understand what we're reviewing here, is that they do kind of a more holistic academic structure, where half the day they're doing math and science and reading, and the other half of the day they are, you know, doing agriculture, they're doing weaving, you know, doing kind of some of those hard skills that you don't maybe see in more traditional school settings.
Is it K-8?
K through 8. Yeah, I think at this time it is mostly in that pre-high school. Although I think they wouldn't be opposed to expanding in that high school realm, but from the sounds of it right now, they don't have that in their scope.
Miles, you said this already, I probably missed it. What size is that parcel?
Yeah, it's quite a large parcel, but it has significant amount of wet area on it. It's 7 acres, so they would primarily be building in this area of the parcel. And so again, you know, with the conflict of land uses, buffering, landscaping, noise, lights, all that has been under review. Because it is a by right use, we're limited on the conditions that we can put on this one. So like for lighting, for example, that's one where we can obviously create a good, the buzzword I've been using a lot lately around people is nexus. We can create a good nexus between like, hey, there is a person living here, They don't want lights in their window when people are dropping and picking off kids. We need a row of bushes. And that's a condition we could obviously put, because there's a direct nexus to a conflict from their land use. Now, if we were to say like, hey, we'd like a water feature, we just think it will look really good out front, we cannot do that. Okay, and I think off the top of my head, that's it. Karen and I went through a couple, but I think I got most of them. So a little bit of activity here in the early spring, and we'll just see how it goes.
Thank you, Miles.
Yep, thank you,
Questions, Al?
Miles?
Miles?
Yep.
The two buildings over by Myers that have caught fire,
Okay.
is there anything moving on that as far as getting them cleaned up?
Yeah, actually, I was talking to Kevin Douglas about that. That goes into that category of, we need to maintain the stock of structures we have. It's an important part of development. Obviously, that whole corridor is viewed, really strong right now for commercial activity. Those structures, in my view at least, hemorrhage our ability to market ourselves. Because of the nature of the incident that took place, I think there is a process that they have to go through, different investigations that have to take place, different insurance, things that have to happen. I think some of that is still playing out.
Is it considered a dangerous structure at this
It is
point?
considered a dangerous structure, so I think, but they are limited on, like, Burt Gale going there as a building department and tagging it and saying, you know, structure shall be removed until some of these investigations, including the insurance piece, have concluded.
Is it roped off at least?
I do not know that.
No.
You been playing out there, Al?
Yeah. I parked there and I walked right now. They, I see the windows are open, so nothing to keep people out of there. Especially the gas station portion of it. The other portion, the roof is gone, so. But
Yeah.
shouldn't they be boarding up the windows to
Good magnet.
Yeah.
keep kids or something out of there?
I think those are all fair questions, probably ones that I'm not able to answer.
We can follow through with what the status is and at least secure the building so that people can't get in there and hurt themselves if that's the concern.
Thank you.
I'm sorry, I would have thought that was done already, but we will check.
I thought it would have been too, and I was surprised the other day when I went
Okay.
down there again and it was wide open.
Okay.
I was a good kid growing up, and that would be like a magnet for me to go and check out and hang out at. Thanks for that, Miles. Any other questions or thoughts for Miles? Great, you've earned your keep today, sir. Oh, well, hold off. We have no items for action on unfinished business. That moves us to number 14, new business, items for introduction and discussion, amendment to marijuana regulatory ordinance. Miles again.
I don't even think I need the laptop for this one, because it's pretty simple, and legal counsel's here, so they can speak to this on anything I'm missing, but I'll try to lay out the issue as we saw it, and then what we tried to do to mitigate that issue. Basically, we have a suite of permits that are required for any type of marijuana land use. It became the assumption always was, because medical marijuana and commercial marijuana were so tied in terms of just production and sales, that if any license holder held commercial, they'd also hold medical, just because of the nature of the clientele they'd be serving, they'd wanna hold both. It's kinda like a liquor store also sells beer, you know, because some people like liquor, for sure, but people might wanna go there and also buy beer, so why wouldn't you just cater to both? What we've seen happen though over time, as marijuana has become more prevalent and commercial marijuana more accessible, is that some facilities have opted to start dropping the medical licenses. This hurts us, because, you know, this was very expensive to bring this land use to Bath Township. We incurred a lot of costs to do this, review fees and legal fees. And having those permits is a way that we hope to gain back some of those costs that we spent to go through this process. Now, obviously, the facility holders would like to not have to pay those permit fees, and if they're not making a lot of sales of medical marijuana, why do so? So we've seen people want to not re-up for the medical permits, just go for the commercial. And I think that's all well and fine, except for the fact that we have also seen marijuana developers use the medical licensing as a way to try to utilize the legal system to, I don't know the legal terms here, I'm gonna say backdoor their way into getting a commercial license. So let's say there's a scenario where a community has 3 commercial licenses available and 4 medical. So one of those medical people is not gonna get one of the 3 licenses. They could then make a case and I'm not saying it wouldn't immediately get thrown out, but they could just make the case and we'd have to go to court to prove why we didn't do this and why this is all fair and it's a legal process and it was a fair competitive process. Instead of even going down that route, it was an easy change to require somebody that holds a commercial license to also hold a medical license, and then it's a null and void issue, because they just hold both, and we'll never even be in that situation. So with this ordinance change, we did that, it's one line of text, it's at the bottom, I think it's G, without looking at it. It just says, if you hold this license, you shall hold that license, basically.
P.
Okay.
And we are still going to charge them separately for each license?
Yes,
Section 1P.
P, sure,
So in our case, we're guaranteeing there's only one
yep.
establishment.
And since that was the mandate and the goal that I was set, the planning department, we're not like just making stuff up here, like, we're given this mandate from the board and the planning commission and the comprehensive plan, and it's our goal and mission to enact said plans. So if I'm told the community wants one commercial marijuana facility, what I'm saying, I'm using the tools available to me, is like, here's how we get there, do this. And this is my recommendation for setting us up for success with the goal of only having one facility.
Yeah, I don't know if that's a community goal or if that was a board goal.
Yeah, and
Because
but,
the survey results we have says the community seems to be generally open.
sure, and I think it was a board goal at that time, and if we move forward in the future and the board like to change that, we can always come back and add more licenses after. I think what the goal always was to start with one, see how it goes, see what the effects are, negative, if any, and then move from there.
One of the things that I have heard, this is not my expertise, but I pass by these people sometimes in my day job, the commercial market for medical marijuana seems to have fallen.
Yeah, it's just non-existent.
Sort of, why would you need this other license if you could just sell to everybody over here with the adult use?
100%.
Are we concerned at all that we're sort of forcing folks to pay us an extra, what is it, $5,000, even though that commercial model isn't functioning like it was?
No, I mean, I'm not concerned with that because, the licenses that they don't need to hold, such as originally for the facility in question in Bath Township, for example, I'll just use them because I'm most familiar. They always anticipated doing kind of some side grow operations, but they've dropped their grow license and their medical grow license. So we're only saying we'd like them to keep their medical if you're gonna sell, keep both. If you're gonna grow, keep both. If you're gonna produce, keep both, medical and commercial. But if you're not gonna produce or grow, you're just gonna do sales, and just do that. But, do it across both. We feel like that's better for the residents, we feel like then that's better for the licensing.
I understand your example about the 4 and the 3. Can you walk me through the 1 and the 1, which is what we have?
Yep.
So like why,
Well,
how
'cause-
is that helping us?
Because if they were, the what-if scenario here, I think, would be, and this is a, big what-if scenario, but again, I thought quickly fixed by this ordinance amendment, is we have 1 and 1. Let's say that the one person selling recreational marijuana forgoes the medical one, but it still says 1 permit available in our ordinance. So now that permit is back up and open. And if you guys remember the complexities of the competitive process, now we go through, whoever wants it again, it's back up and we have to set up a window to open it up for a competitive process, go through the whole competitive process, and then let's say in the what-if scenario, another facility gets that medical one. Now they have to locate somewhere in the township, they will do so, and then the potential is that they could sue us and say, we were not allowed or permitted to have a commercial license. They are only letting us do medical, and that is stymieing our ability to operate unfairly as a marijuana business. And we would like recourse through the legal system. And so, in this big what-if scenario, there is a small possibility that the courts could side with them, and now we end up with 2 commercial marijuana facilities. And my whole thing is, why even worry about all that, just do this. And then if we want to in the future, just change that 1 to 2 in the ordinance.
Isn't this really an outcome of our own doing, though, in that we gave extra points to applicants who had the medical to get the adult use?
Well, I think originally the developer probably saw the incentive to gain the medical, so they would score up better when we opened up the adult use. But in that competitive environment at the time, they were still in competition with the whole marketplace. What would be happening here is that one marijuana person that would gain in this what-if scenario, the new medical, would be in competition with basically no one, because to your point, medical is not as desirable, other than the people that may know of this complicated legal planning backdoor theory that I'm talking about, which it is just a theory. I think it would largely result in the case getting dismissed. That's after we have spent another 6 months on a competitive process and all the legal fees that come with fighting the case. So we could be, and I don't know, I feel like I'm almost offering like advice to people. I shouldn't be like talking about this. We should be careful to not put ourselves in that position.
Lizzie, is this a thing? Is this what's happening out there?
So I think our planner has accurately described that these are potential loopholes that some folks are sort of looking for these days. The market is changing dramatically, and people are looking for, how can I get what I'm looking to do accomplished in as little regulatory scheming as possible? And so what our planner is articulating to you is this is a potential issue under your current ordinance. Probability is something different than potentiality. And I think that that's also been recognized by the planner. What I appreciate about the presentation today is that it all comes back to, what do you all want based on what you believe your constituents are directing you to accomplish in terms of total number of businesses operating here, selling, producing, growing, in any way providing marijuana. If at any time you choose to expand, then we are going to have fewer and fewer concerns about this potential loophole. But because right now the numbers are very low, you have this concern that someone might come in and say, look, I have essentially been excluded from the opportunity, and I have concerns about that. Now, it's not so much a zoning issue as it is my substantive due processes compared to somebody else's to go accomplish something. So, again, probability versus likelihood of actually accomplishing it, very different, but these are potential concerns. What we're seeing on the marijuana, the pro-marijuana business side of the bar right now, so the other attorneys working sort of with those in the business, is that they are trying to be extremely creative right now.
So does that mean that we need to change the other ordinance that lays out the scoring? Because at this point, you wouldn't get extra points for having it, you'd be required to have it.
You would still, if in this, again, a what-if scenario here where Bath comes back and they say, you know what, this isn't going too bad, we haven't seen any externalities created by this land use, we want 2 commercial licenses to now be available. It'd probably be good to keep that in place, because then you'd be incentivizing people to go get another medical one, which in the end they would be required to anyways.
But what if these folks gave up their licenses, and then we have competing folks? Now our ordinance says that you're going to get extra points if you have 2, but we're actually saying you have to have 2.
They wouldn't, well, first of all, if we did do this ordinance, they wouldn't be able to give up theirs, but if we didn't do this ordinance, and let's say Sunrise Forest gave up their, or Flora, gave up their medical license.
I'm saying, what if they gave up both?
Oh, if they gave up both.
So now we're in a competitive market again.
They'd be in a competitive market again.
But our ordinance says you're gonna get extra points, but in actuality, you have to now.
Yeah, I think that is probably true. I think I still like the ability to require them to have it better than incentivizing them to have it, because then they just, what we've seen and what we're seeing here, and this is why we're here, is them doing it in year one and then just dropping it in year two, which is counter to what the incentive structure we were attempting to set up. The incentive structure was always to couple.
Yeah, it was also set up when the free market said that both of those were valuable. Now the free market is saying one is not. My concern and why I'm trying to like dig to the core of this is it's expensive.
Yeah.
It's not just like, hey, you gotta have one, you gotta come fill out some paperwork, you gotta pay us $5,000.
Yeah.
And then maintain it year after year. That feels burdensome. But happy to hear thoughts and questions from my colleagues. It
Do
doesn't
we have
need
to
be
have a
my
price on it? Can we have any price instead of 5,000?
You can take that is a point, so you can take the price down over time. I think why communities have set it at $5,000 and it's currently operating at that across the state is because, again, we incurred a lot of costs to get here. I'm talking, I don't know. I don't like to get into costs because I have the luxury of not having to deal with it. I don't know, it was a good amount of money. I mean, it was in the tens of thousands. And so we'll get that back by like year 5 of this permitting cycle going through. And then at that time, the township staff probably would come back and recommend like, hey, our burden has been fulfilled. Now we just need to gain the administrative cost it takes us to conduct this process. We recommend this price point for permits, as you know we do. But right now it's high because our burden's high. When our burden is lower, we would reduce price. So I don't think it would be 5,000 year over year forever is what I'm saying.
Okay.
Has the current holder indicated that having both of these is a hardship to their business? I know that they did go ahead and renew the second one,
Yep.
even though they technically weren't required to at this point in time.
That's what I was gonna say, they weren't required to, they did drop some licenses like the grow ones that I mentioned.
And
But I think they're, I mean, I don't wanna speak for that, but it sounds like it's going okay, sounds like it's going good.
And I will say that the planning commission did vote to support this at our meeting last week.
Thanks, Kate. Other questions, thoughts? Go ahead, Jen.
Yeah, I'm just trying to take all this in. There's quite a little bit for, potentialities, as
I
you
know.
say. So the comment was made that, by our supervisor, that maybe the general consideration in the community and the public here is that they do want more eventually. And if that's the case, and we're looking at the medical not being as profitable, that just seems to me like that might be an unnecessary burden to open the door to others. I don't know. I mean, the planning commission has probably talked about this ad infinitum, I don't know,
Yeah.
so.
I would say to that, if the community is feeling we want to, my recommendation would be pass this and amend the ordinance to allow 2 licenses.
Yeah, I mean,
Don't-
what this
don't
board
over-
said was, maybe, we're gonna wait and see
Yeah.
if the world falls apart. But we've never sort of been poked to say, hey, the world hasn't fallen
Yeah.
apart. But instead, we're like going down the road as if this is still our
Well, I think we're
path.
kinda in year 1 or 2 of this, I do think like we're still early, and the marijuana industry, as you've noted, is rapidly changing, cause it's early for the industry.
Yeah, but what we haven't seen is mass murders.
Oh,
and-
no,
And stealing, I mean, the things
No.
that people brought to
Yeah.
us that were the concerns,
Sure.
while we have had it in Bath for about a year, the rest of the state has had longer than us.
Sure,
And
and
we
you're
just
seeing-
haven't seen any sort of tie to greater crime.
Yeah, and you're seeing communities that held out like Meridian start to opt in, so, yeah, you're seeing it, but, again, I just would say, I like, and you guys know, I like order and rules, and I don't like people obfuscating one process to go through the judicial process. I would recommend that we shore that up, and if we'd like to open that up, then we just do it the normal regulatory way, instead of being forced by a judge into something that we didn't agree to. Or just being taken to court for some BS reason and end up the taxpayers just pay like $50,000 in legal fees.
Yeah, I mean, that's sort of the business that we're in anyway. I mean, has any cases like this been brought? I mean, does this seem like a sound legal
I
argument to you?
haven't seen this, but I will certainly commit to conferring additionally with our medical marijuana and commercial marijuana experts who are practicing in this area and confer and get back to you on that.
I mean, I'm not a lawyer by any means, but it seems like a really weak argument. I agreed to do this thing that you told me to do, I did the thing, now I actually wanna do some other thing that you're not allowing me to do that I knew I wasn't gonna be able to do.
Yes, but anybody can sue anyone for anything at any time.
Yeah,
and
but we have
that's-
the best lawyers in the world.
Oh, well, so noted, but even we can't save you from that sometimes. But I will certainly commit back and I can provide an update to the board as to if there are any particular cases that have pushed this idea forward yet to this point that we're aware of.
Yeah, it'd be helpful if it was like a legal theory, or if it was like actually happening.
Yep, I can get back to you.
Yeah,
I
if
don't
I
think we wanna
remember
be the
correctly.
test case though, do we?
Well, that's always our concern. But as I said, that's not my particular area of specialty, so I will talk with Matt Kuschel, who works with Miles regularly, as along with Lindsay Gurgel, and we'll get you some feedback on that.
Yeah, I think if I remember correctly, it wasn't necessarily, it was when the process got opened back up, because as she correctly stated, there's so few licenses, we have to go through the competitive process. As if the license numbers were greater, the risk wouldn't be so high. It's because the few number of licenses that makes our risk high.
Yeah, I mean, I would like us to engage in the conversation we promised the community we would engage in, which is after it's been open for a year, talk about, has the world fallen apart, are we open to more licenses? And personally, I'm not talking about like licenses and licenses, I don't think
Yeah.
that's what we want, but even two would bring at least competition into the area,
I think if
which
you
to me
were-
is a minimum.
If you were even talking about 2 or 3 licenses, I don't think I would be bringing this, because I think my risk profile would've went down for this.
I know, that's why I said it.
Yeah, okay.
And we did promise the community that we would talk about this.
Sure.
We just haven't gotten around to engaging on it yet.
Sure. Fair.
Could we add that as part of this conversation?
I
Karen?
was doing something else, I'm sorry.
Could we add to the agenda to talk about, is there interest in this board, which is a different board than set the ordinance, of having more than one license?
Yes.
They've been open now for almost a year?
Yeah, we've re-upped now, so it's over a year at this point.
So that's what we promised we would do, so at the least, we could have the conversation, even if we land in the same place. People feel okay about that? All right, other questions or comments on this issue for Miles or Lizzie? All right, thanks, Miles.
Thank you.
Next up, we have items for action. Item A is the community project funding request from Superintendent Hildebrand.
Thank you. I was trying to go back and locate an email so I could give you accurate costs, and if you'll just bear with me for 1 second. This community project funding actually came to my attention through Trustee Hagerman, who was looking at it for a different reason. In taking a look at the projects that have been funded through this initiative, I noticed there were a lot of sewer infrastructure, fire trucks, and a lot of other things by municipalities in Michigan, and sparked the idea with me that this could help us close the gap in funding for the sewer infrastructure that we're looking to locate with the Norm Fasteners plant. We received a grant from the MEDC to assist us with about $3.7 million of that. Another $2.6 million is needed for capacity at the plant and other things that are needed with that flow going to the plant. Part of this could be secured from the fees that the applicant would pay to connect to the system, which would be substantial for an industry such as theirs.
We're estimating like 1.2 million.
$1.2 million. The sewer fund, and I would defer to Treasurer Wilson, I think is healthy right now at a couple $1 million in fund balance. What I'm proposing is we not use those funds and continue to be able to invest those funds and hang on to those funds and try to pursue an opportunity for additional grant funding to do something that we need to do anyways. And it wouldn't be done on the backs of our taxpayers and those that are connected to the system currently. So I just thought this was a great idea. It came fairly quickly because we were talking about the packet, and I just thought, like, what a great opportunity for us to try to get some funding for Bath.
So you're seeking action on this tonight?
I am. The reason I'm seeking action tonight is because the indication given to trustee Hagerman, and I don't want to speak for you, was that it could open fairly quickly, and I don't want to miss the opportunity, should it happen before our next board meeting, to lose the opportunity to move quickly and be able to submit an application.
And you're saying these are federal funds, right?
From Representative, I think, Slotkin,
Right, but from the federal government?
from the federal government.
Okay. So you're looking for us to do a motion to approve?
Me to apply should the window open fairly quickly.
Okay, for this particular project?
Yes.
Questions, thoughts, concerns from the board? Are folks in general supportive of this? Free
Yeah.
money is usually good.
Yeah, I think it's nice to see our tax dollars coming back into our own community, our federal tax dollars coming back into our local community. I think that's the best way to use them, and if you check out online, lots of other communities are taking advantage of this. Lansing, Ingham County, some other smaller cities and townships are as well, and why not us?
Great. Someone want to put that in motion form?
Sure. I'll make a motion to support the authorization to apply for the community project funding grant when it opens, to support the sewer infrastructure system.
Second.
Motion a second. Any other questions or thoughts? Seems like the timing is right, since Representative Slotkin is going to be looking for folks in Michigan to support her for a new office, so maybe she can bring home some bacon to Bath Township. All right, let's do a roll call vote.
Ms. Kellerman?
Yep.
Ms.
Yes.
Hagerman?
Yes.
Mr. Rosecrans?
Yes.
Ms. Butler Challenger, yes. Mr. Funes Bliss?
Yes.
Ms. Wilson?
Yes.
Mr. Phillips?
Yes.
Thank you.
Motion carries. Thank you.
Thank you.
Last item on our to-do list tonight is talk about the April 15th meeting. The superintendent and I are proposing canceling that meeting and retaining the special meeting that we have on the 29th? 29th. Thank you. Our agendas have been pretty light lately. We think we can get to the 29th without having anything we need to move on. We also need just a little bit more time to figure out the police and fire millage that we would propose and discuss to figure out what we want to put on the ballot, and that is a timely issue as well. So we are proposing that we cancel the April 15th meeting. We keep the special meeting on the 29th, where we are proposed to talk about the Senior Services Advisory Board, and also put anything else that comes up in regular order on that special meeting agenda. So we'd still have a second meeting this month, but give us a little bit more time to figure some things out. Any concerns with that? Any unintended consequences the superintendent and I haven't thought through?
I would offer that when I spoke to legal counsel earlier today, she did indicate that we would need to notice properly those items that were going to be on the agenda. So that would be clear for the public to understand what else is being put on that agenda for discussion or action.
And we'd know that within enough time because you'd be preparing the packet.
Correct.
Okay.
I capture that accurately?
Well done.
Thank you.
If you are supportive of that, we need a motion and a vote to implement that, because it is a change in our posted schedule. Al?
So you're talking of 2 meetings on the 29th?
No, it would technically be one meeting. It's sort of like we're moving the regular meeting to the
No, if you got a
29th.
special meeting, and if you have a special meeting, and then you're doing our regular business work, that can't be on that special meeting, can it?
It
Because-
can. Ultimately, if we move a regular meeting, it becomes a special meeting. That's what Lizzie has shared with us in the past. So it's sort of like we're moving the regular meeting to the special meeting, but in that case, they're both special meetings, and instead of having 2 special meetings, we just have 1 special meeting. I know.
That is,
We thought this through in depth.
that is correctly stated. Anytime you are not holding a regularly scheduled meeting, it is a special meeting. So you do not need to hold two back-to-back, which is the point that I raised earlier with the superintendent. When you're putting together your packet, your notice for the meeting will clearly state that. As you probably all remember, your notices for a special meeting simply must be posted at least 18 hours in advance. Your packets go out well before that, so your notices of that will be clear. So in the interim period between now and when you might officially post a more plentiful notice explaining what will be discussed, you could at least say, there is going to be a special meeting on the 29th, official posting to be coming. And I can certainly work with both the clerk and the superintendent on those issues.
The majority of the meeting would still be discussion of the Senior Services Advisory Board.
Good point, Al. Sounds a lot like Planner Robler's legal backdooring going on to me, but it seems to work.
I move we cancel the April 15th meeting.
We have a motion. Is there a second?
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Any other discussion? Hearing none, we'll take, do we need a roll call vote or is voice vote okay?
We can do roll call.
All right.
Okay.
You
Ms.
getting bored
Ha-
over there?
Ms. Hagerman?
Yes.
Mr. Rosecrans?
Yes,
Ms. Butler Challenger, yes. Mr. Funes Bliss?
Yes.
Ms. Wilson?
Yes.
Mr. Phillips?
Yes,
Ms. Kellerman?
Yes.
Thank you.
Thank you, Board. We will be sure to use your time well on the 29th. Don't cancel that meeting.
Is that 6 o'clock or?
6 o'clock is what we had said, I believe, in the original document.
Okay.
Karen, you're up for your superintendent report.
Thank you very much. I want to point out to you all tonight, you may have received it in the mail, but I also placed copies at the dais where you sit of the newsletter that came out. Most importantly, Tom King Junk Day, I will say signups began already today, and I think we had nearly 40 people sign up, both for pickup, which we help seniors and those with disabilities, as well as just some people who called in and wanted to talk to a real person about just getting on the list to drop off their waste here. So always a big event, always, I think, helpful for the community in the ways that our planner spoke to tonight. And I think that it's just a big help for the community to get rid of items that normally would cost them a lot to get rid of. So very popular event. I will also note that several of us attended the Housing Commission, a couple of meetings. One was a regular meeting, and I think the other one didn't have a quorum, which I apologize to Allison. She wasn't notified she was on the agenda tonight, so I do apologize to her for that. And we will try to be better in the future about notifying people when they're on the agenda for an appointment. I think trying to understand the Housing Commission and how we can best help the administration there and support what they're trying to do for a very important sect of our community. So we will continue working towards that. I have found it, after being here in the community, I think for 12 years, I'm learning new things all the time still. And the Housing Commission is one of those items that I think is very rewarding to learn about. And I would encourage other people to try to learn about it as well if they have the interest and want to be possibly even on the commission. It's something that I haven't had a lot of experience with over time, but it is something that's very important to this community and requires dedication from, I think, all of us to make sure that the program can stand up and help our residents. So I don't have a lot of report past that. It's been a very busy couple of days and weeks for staff with board review. We do have our audit coming up next week. So the auditors will be in here in the conference room, working with our staff to look at everything that we've done over the past year. Even today, answering questions about depreciation of our assets. So always ongoing. But if I can answer any questions for you, I'd be happy to take those at this time.
Do you need volunteers for the junk day?
Yes, we do.
Like 16-year-old boys?
Yes.
That would be
Yes.
perfect.
There was a flyer that was dropped off at the high school today, so they
Okay.
can actually post them on their walls up there too, so.
Perfect.
But yes, I would encourage anybody to forward that information to us. It's always a pleasure. We had a couple of teenagers that helped in the recycling area, which is where I worked last year. And it was a lot of fun for them. I think they might have saw it more as work when they arrived, but had a good day and said they would love to come back. So I think it's a good lesson to help your community. If there are no further questions, thank you so much for your time tonight.
Thank you, Madam Superintendent. That brings us to our second of our public statement opportunities. This is another 3 minutes where the public can address the board on any issue. It does not have to be on the agenda, and you can speak again if you spoke the first time. So I'd welcome any public up to the lectern. Introduce yourself if you'd like to, and tell us what you want to talk about.
I take off my hat of planning commission chairman and talk as a citizen. There's two concerns I have. I know Cheryl's really big on PFAS, and I'm really big on Roundup. Roundup is in our water, it's in our soil, it's in our bodies, and since Bayer bought Monsanto, they've had to settle a number of lawsuits that have linked their product to cancer. So it's a known carcinogen. The other thing is I'm a little concerned about the Bath Museum. I think it's a great plan, but I think the long-range plan would be to combine the library and the museum into one facility because there's a base of support for the library and it would help fund the museum as a long-term funding source. I know there's a sweetheart deal with Mr. Kessler over the present library location, but I don't know what the terms of that are.
I'd object to that being called a sweetheart deal, but we can talk later.
Thank you.
Thanks, John. Cindy?
Karen, thank you for mentioning the Housing Commission, and thank you for the support of the folks who showed up at our meetings. Things are getting better over there. Things are looking up. We're getting things back on track. Tenants' morale is up. They're feeling like they're more part of the community rather than some people shoved over in the corner. And I think that's important to them. Something really teeny tiny, but about the newsletter that went out, could we possibly get seals that are not clear? Every time we get something in there sealed with the clear, I end up tearing the crap out of it because I can't figure out where the seals are.
Oh, okay.
And if it had just, I know it's tiny.
I know what you meant, but you know the township.
No,
I understand.
what pulls them shut.
So whatever company we go through.
Yeah, just even a
Because we
gauge or
don't stick them as a
something.
company.
Thank you for that.
Yeah, and I wanted to mention the marijuana. I was on the Township Board, the Planning Commission, and the Zoning Board of Appeals when the one-and-done marijuana was pushed through. And part of that statement is a personal opinion. I don't recall anyone really opposing a marijuana facility. There were a few aspects that they didn't want. They didn't want transporters and, things like that. But as far as having commercial facilities in the southern corridor over in the M78 business district, I don't recall much opposition. And I do recall in the survey right after that folks were surprisingly open to more facilities. We did spend a lot of money on the one and done. Nobody else was allowed to apply. The one group came in, backdoored their way in with the police, the fire, the planning. When it wasn't even allowed by ordinance, they worked their way in, they worked their way through, they got their license, nobody else was even allowed to apply. Their attorneys wrote our ordinance for us. With that being said, there was a lot of cost because it was one, and we discussed that. Why not go 3 and spread that cost out? And to keep the medical license and pay the $5,000, anyone's opening a marijuana business, $5,000 is not a hardship. Typically, they have a lot of funding and a lot of backing. So to maintain that medical license is not an issue for them. I do support opening up to 3 facilities. I think that there's a market for it. I think that we need to recoup the money we've spent to start this project. And I think the world has not fallen apart. I don't recall anybody saying it was going to, and it hasn't. But with the same discretion as to the location and things like that, I think that more facilities should be considered by the board.
Thanks, Cindy. Would anyone else like to address the board?
Chris Hagerman, I just want to address John's question about introducing the library in with the Bath School Museum. That has actually been a topic of discussion for us as museum committee members. And we approached the library about this, and their current facility is probably as big as what we want to build at this point, maybe even bigger. And to house our museum and to house a library with all the resources that they have there is it 100% takes up too much space in there, which with our current facility that we're proposing is about 8,000 square feet. To add the library in with that would probably add another at least 3,000 to 4,000 square feet of space in the park. So we worked with them, and just our goals as the museum committee to build this, it just would not work. The museum, the library, just with what they have available there, we couldn't do that in the footprint that we have. But that was an actual discussion we did have with the library. And a lot of folks on our committee were really adamantly against that to begin with anyways. But to get funding to make this thing succeed, that was one of our first thoughts, is what we want to do. One of the other few things that we want to do to make this succeed is to have community events there. It's going to house, we can have an interior part for a bigger interior area for our Christmas celebration that we hold in there. It's great that we have it in the Methodist church, but it's slowly getting way too small for us. So that's one of the things that we can do to house that, but rent it out to folks, and also have special events there, special exhibits. One particularly is Carlton Angel. We're actively communicating with them to get a special exhibit of his stuff. As you guys know, he's the one that did the Girl with Cat statue. So, I mean, those are some of the things that we want to do to raise money, to continue to make this thing succeed. Because we know it's a lot of work. We got to figure out how to run our own building, let alone raise the money to build it. So these are things that we thought from day one, how to do this. But thanks for the question. I appreciate it.
Thank you.
Thanks, Chris. Would anyone else like to address the board? All right, seeing none, we will move to board member comments. We'll start on the other side. Sherry?
Thank you for coming. Enjoyed it, and I agree with you.
Jan?
I have nothing.
Nothing.
Thanks for everyone who came out for one, and definitely thanks for folks who stuck it out for 2 meetings tonight. We'll see you in a couple of weeks on the 29th, where we're talking about the Senior Services Advisory Board and the role they play, and anything else that comes up between now and then.
I don't have anything.
Yeah?
I would encourage people to check out the information in the pamphlet, or in the Friday report about the internet challenge process. It's a little complicated, but if you think your internet isn't what it should be, then it's worth looking into.
I saw the township put it on Facebook as well. Thanks, Kate. With that, we are open to a motion to adjourn.
I move we adjourn.
Motion by Al, second by Jennifer. Discussion? None. All those in favor say aye. Aye. Any opposed? We stand adjourned. Thanks, everyone.
Could I get these
wondered
back?
what is-
That's what I said, I'm like, I said, they think they want these back, I don't
What
think I'm allowed
happens
to.
if people vote not to adjourn?
Okay, thank you.
How long do you have to stay here?
I have them online and they're